Hey everybody, this is Kim here at Read It Again Bookstore, and today we're talking to SL Huang. Did I get that right?
Yeah, you're great. You're great.
Okay, so SL has two books that, let me start over. She has 3 books out. One just came out and another that's coming out in September. So let me read my intro to you and then let's talk about your books. Okay,
Sounds good.
SL justifies her. Okay, you wrote this, so I'm just reading what you wrote, and then we're going to have to discuss it.
Copy that.
Okay. SL justifies her MIT degree by using it to write eccentric mathematical superhero. In her real life, you can usually find her hanging up. I'm so bad at this. Hanging upside down from the ceiling or stabbing people with swords. She is unhealthily opinionated, at SL Huang, HUANG.com, and on Twitter as @SL_HUANG. Well, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So let's talk about your bio.
Sure.
So where do we start? Let's start at the beginning. Her MIT degree by using it to write mathematical superhero fiction.
Yes. Well, my main series, which I see behind you in that lovely background, it starts with the book Zero Sum Game, which is a sci-fi thriller, and the protagonist, she's sort of an anti-hero. I call her a superhero, but she's really an anti-hero. And her superpower is being able to do math really, really fast, and she uses it to murder a lot of people. You know, as you do with math, all the murder.
Yeah, all yeah. I mean, high school math killed me.
Yeah. That's a good one. I have not heard that
one. In college, I'm so bad at math. In college, I took a class on polling, and we wrote essays about math. That's how I'm not doing real math. I'm just going to write essays about it.
That's cool though. I mean, that's what I'm doing now, right? Writing fiction about math. But I think math is really badly taught in this country in particular. I don't know about other countries, but I've taught a lot of math, to high school. Somebody's commenting, I like the idea of math is murder.
Math is murder. You need that t-shirt.
I do. I definitely do.
Math is murder.
Yeah, I should design one of those or something.
Yeah. Do it on Bonfire and then link it to your website.
Excellent.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think math is it could be taught in such a more fun and exciting way and connecting to our real lives. Because I've taught a lot of, especially high school students, math and done a lot of tutoring and TAing and stuff. And people get all the joy sucked out of it for them by a lot of the teaching methods, and it's really sad. But it doesn't even have to be everybody's thing, right? It's totally fine with me. People will come up to me and they'll be like, "I wanted to tell you, I'm really sorry, but I hate math," and they'll always apologize to me that way. And I'm like, it's okay. And they'll say, "I hate math, but I loved your books," and that's just the highest compliment to me, because it's totally cool that we all have different loves and we all enjoy different things, but I just want to share some of my joy in mathematics and geekery. And I think that's how it should be taught too in high school. So you're saying, people struggle through it, and it shouldn't have to be that way. It should just be as fun as it can be, even if that's the only math class you ever take and you don't continue it. And I wish we could get there.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm not a big fan of math, but I enjoyed your book. I really did. Okay. So I read Zero Sum, and I'm halfway through Null Set. So, and I will finish it. It's not like, I interviewed her and I'm not going to finish it. I will totally finish it.
That's good to hear. I am glad you're enjoying them.
I was going to do a fun book club book. So if any book club members are reading this, listening to this, because we have a sci-fi book club, and a lot of them are nerds. We have, I think, one MIT graduate in there.
Oh, that's so cool. Wow.
Susan here. She's one of our book club people.
Oh, hello, Susan. Well, there are 3 books out, but I think you can tell me if you agree. They stand alone pretty well. They've each got their own storyline, but then they build on each other with the whole myth arc. And it's Zero Sum Game, Null Set, and then Critical Point, which are all math puns that give me great joy because I love puns.
Okay, so we know that. See, I didn't get that.
That's fine. fine. That's fine.
I
It's for,
figured it had to do with
like,
math, but I have no idea.
it's all good. They work for people who like, aren't on the pun train as well, on the math pun train.
So, in these books, okay, so we talked about how it's about math. Susan, I love that you're just commenting like crazy. Just keep it up.
I love it too.
She's in our conversation. So okay, it's about math and she's a superhero. Can you give us a little bit more of the plot?
Sure. Oh yeah, no spoilers. Let's see. So she's sort of a mercenary-ish kind of character in the Los Angeles Underground, which I wrote because for almost a decade I was working full-time as a stunt woman and weapons expert in Los Angeles. And the Los Angeles criminal underground in my books takes a lot of inspiration from the movie underworld of working in movies, which is not always the most normal and real feeling place to work. I guess it can feel very off the wall and like these aren't the normal rules of life. So I draw on that a lot for my Los Angeles crime world. So she ends up hooking up with some other shady characters who are maybe a bit more ethical than she is, and it's a lot about and she gets drawn into sort of a conspiracy plot. And I try to make it really fast-paced and page-turning, but it's also really about the character. I have a really diverse cast, which is important to me as a queer woman of color. And it sort of develops into this found family as she and these other miscreants that she joins up with are trying to make decisions to save people and save the world. And she's very slowly trying to become a slightly more moral person, which it'll be a very slow.
Arthur is her Jiminy Cricket, right?
Little bit, yeah. Her friend Arthur, who's not her friend at the beginning, but they're sort of at loggerheads, is sort of her conscience as the book goes on, and she needs it very much.
So, how did you get into being a stunt woman?
I was an actor first. I minored in theater arts at MIT, which actually has an excellent theater program. And I was also really into sword fighting and stage combat and martial arts and all sorts of those things. And when I moved out west, I had intended to sort of do half acting and half pursuing stunts. And then I very quickly realized that the performance scenes I liked doing were always the action scenes. And I thought, you know what? I will just be the stunt person who can also do dialogue, because there are a fair number of stunt people who don't enjoy doing the acting part. So I would put acting as a skill on my resume and be like, I can say the line of dialogue and then get thrown through the window, if you need somebody to do that.
That's cool. Okay. And how long did you do that for?
Almost 10 years, I guess. I was, yeah.
Susan says you sound like the coolest person ever.
Thank you, Susan. MIT grads!
Oh, here's a good one. How does your work in stunts influence your writing? What about your Chinese heritage?
My work in stunts definitely influences my writing in the sense that or maybe they're both influenced by the same thing, in the sense that I really like action. I've always loved action movies, and I've always loved action in books, and loved swords and fight scenes. But working in stunts has definitely affected how I write action, because in fight choreography, what the most important thing we always say is it's not the blow by blow action, although a cool fight is still a cool fight. But what's really the most important thing is the emotion behind it, the story of it. And that's true in movies. And if you watch movie fight scenes, you can see how the fight choreographer has worked with the director to build this story with the fight. And it's a huge part of fight choreography for film and television. And that really translates to writing, because I'm always so aware of those emotional stakes and using the fight as story rather than just as, oh, punch here, kick there, And I've actually had people tell me that they often skim action scenes, but they really like reading my action scenes, which tells me I'm doing something right. So hopefully that can continue.
That is pretty cool. So we were talking before we started. What do you do when you're not writing?
Well, when it's
the world is perfect and you can go outside.
Yes, exactly. When it's non-pandemic times, I have a lot of hobbies which have often crossed over with my work since, doing stunts and now writing. A lot ends up being relevant to my life. Like I go skydiving and, that's a tax deduction. But I do a lot of athletic stuff, like martial arts stuff. I love circus and like doing aerial circus stuff. And of course, different types of like reading and writing and geeking out. I also still do a lot of like computer science and math stuff just on my own time. And because I really enjoy it.
When you said you did math for fun, but hey, I have some friends who are like that, but that's awesome. I wish my brain was wired that way.
Oh my God, I'm glad you think it's awesome because there have been times in my life when that was not considered the cool thing to do. I know this is hard to believe, but like in middle school, doing math for fun was not always like the epitome of like the popular crowd.
Well, I mean, did you ever have anybody to say to you, like, don't worry, when you get to college, it's going to be fine, because you will find people like that.
Yeah. No, I actually my high school experience was actually pretty good because I went to a public school, but it was pretty like it was in a good area, I guess, in the sense that like we had a really strong math team and science Olympiad and stuff. And thanks, Carlos. And we would like my high school didn't even have a football team, but we had a really strong math team. So I did find quite a few kindred spirits there. But I think even most of them thought I was just a little weird, even though they liked me, but they're just like, we like you, but you're just a little weird.
I don't think you're weird. Okay, so Carlos also asked, what martial arts do you practice?
I've done quite a few, especially, doing stunts. We often train in a lot of different disciplines. I did Kempo karate when I was a lot younger. And then more recently, I've done a lot of Western kickboxing and boxing. I've done Kung Fu and Muay Thai. And right now I'm training in Taekwondo, which is my first time doing Taekwondo, but it's really, really cool. And I've been doing that for about a year now, I guess, and really, really enjoying it. It's very different.
I did Taekwondo as a kid, and I can still do the, where they make you do the series of moves in a row.
Forms.
Yeah, forms. I can still do the first one.
That's amazing. Oh my gosh.
It's the only thing that stuck with me.
You must look really cool. You can show it off to your bookstore customers.
No, when my kids did Taekwondo, I remember like, no, this arm goes here. And so the things that you remember. Okay. Susan wants to know, what was your category in Science Olympiad?
Oh my gosh, you did Science Olympiad. That's amazing. Let's see. I did a whole bunch of events. I did Nature Quest was probably one of my biggest events, and I medaled in that one at nationals. One of my absolute favorites was Crime Busters, which was a forensic science event. I guess I should say what these are for people who haven't done Science Olympiad. Crime Busters was like they would give you all these substances and you had to like identify them and solve the crime. Yeah, it was really cool. There was another one I really liked that was water quality, which was like testing water to see what was in it and like whether it was safe and what different like substances you could find in the water. And Nature Quest was like an orienteering field guide-esque one that was identification, but also like compass direction kinds of stuff in it. There were a lot of good. I did some like more sciencey ones too, but I forget all the names now. Those were like three of my main ones though.
Susan, if you're still listening, what was your Science Olympiad?
Yeah, I want to know.
Just put that in the comments. I'll post it up. So out of all your books, which was your favorite to write?
Oh God, that's such a tough question.
I know, I'm sorry.
they're all different. Like the process for each one has been very different. I mean, Zero Sum Game, I was a lot younger of a writer. I wasn't that much younger of a person, but I was much less experienced. And I was also not writing it for an editor, which is a very, it's a different process when I'm just sort of writing for myself, when it's not my career and I'm doing it between the scenes on a movie set versus, I have a deadline, I better get this done. But I actually like both of those. So it's varied a lot and I'm proud of them in different ways, I feel like. And Burning Roses, which is the upcoming fantasy,
Mm-hmm.
was again very different and is such a different feel to it, because it's not I hope it's still fun and action adventure, but it's not a thriller in the same way.
Why don't you tell us about that one?
Sure. Burning Roses is coming out in a month, September 29th. And it's a fairy tale remix about Red Riding Hood, who in this version is a recovering assassin, because of course Red Riding Hood would be a recovering assassin. And she's a rifle markswoman, and she's this middle-aged woman now. Mm-hmm. And she hooks up with Hou Yi, who is an archer in Chinese mythology, who's a very, very famous archer of Chinese folklore. And who's in my version is also a queer middle-aged woman. And they become friends and are having adventures while also having like trauma and flashbacks about their past, which is like coming to catch up with them. And they have to sort of solve some of the problems that they caused in their younger lives, because they're catching up with them too fast, and are both these experts with their weapons. Rosa with a rifle, and Hou Yi with her bow and arrow.
Bow and arrow. That sounds awesome.
Thank you.
How do you get your ideas? Where
oh God, I don't know.
Susan says she was Storm the Castle.
Storm the Castle. I didn't do that one, so I don't really know that one that well. They always have such good names for them, right? Like they would always give them these cute names.
You get the kids involved.
Yeah.
So okay, so tell us where do you get your ideas?
I don't always know. Like sometimes it's just something that I'm thinking that I'm looking at the real world and thinking, oh, I wish this were that way or something. Sometimes it's news items, sometimes it's scientific discoveries, since I write a lot of science fiction, especially for my short stories. I would say sometimes I am looking for interesting science to write about.
Congratulations on the Hugo, by the way.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
That's pretty darn cool.
That one was definitely inspired by real world. I had gone to visit. I was living in Japan at the time, and I had gone to visit the museums at Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and shortly thereafter went to visit the museum in Nanjing, China, of the Nanjing massacre in China, where the Japanese army in World War II massacred about 300,000 people and did many worse things as well. And it was those museums, there's so much in them that is so hard to grapple with as a human in the world, as a person with empathy who looking at these atrocities. And that story was definitely me trying to work through some of that, trying to search for understanding in some of that.
I went to Cambodia and visited the Khmer Rouge. Like they have a school there that they turned into a prison, and some of the last prisoners of the Khmer Rouge were held there, and then they weren't executed. They were driven out to be executed, and then they changed their mind. And then we visited the killing fields. And when we were done, I mean, I felt like literally there was I don't know, ghosts holding on to me and just depressing me, because it was such a depressing thing, but it was something we felt we needed to go visit, because it's
I completely understand what you're saying, because it feels so necessary in terms of understanding our place in the world to know about these things. And yet exactly what you're saying, it wrecked me. Like all of these museums really wrecked me, and trying to process it and trying to then look out in the world and see people who are acting with a complete lack of empathy in the world right now, and like how do I help fight against that? How do I help change that? And it's really it's such a hard thing, and I don't have any answers.
Well, you do it with a little bit of literature here and a little bit of literature there, and everybody who reads your book is a little bit different.
I hope so.
It's like a pebble thrown into a lake type of thing.
Yeah, I hope I don't know that much of my fiction is going to change the world in an extremely meaningful way, but I hope a little bit, like a drop in that. Yeah, it makes the world a little better.
Yeah. Okay, what else do I have to ask you? So yes. No. Oh, I read somewhere you light yourself on fire.
Yes. Well, most of those times were on purpose for stunt work. So part of the job, I love being lit on fire. It is one of my favorite things to do.
What's it like?
Stunts. Very cold.
Really?
Which, yeah, you wouldn't expect, right? Because it's fire. But because the protective layers are all, it's like 3 layers of basically neoprene pajamas soaked in this really cold fire retardant gel. And if you have a good team who knows what they're doing, they're extremely good at it, and they will protect you with all the prep that they're doing. So I would not be the one doing the prep. They're prepping me. So I'm covered in these layers and layers of basically long underwear soaked in this freezing cold gel. It is so cold. And then it's like all in my hair and over my face and in my ear, like globbed into my ears. And then at the very top layer is the clothes they put on to burn. So then they put the clothes on to burn, they paint it with accelerant, and they light you up, right?
And while you're covered in that stuff?
What's that?
Can you see?
Yes. Like they have you close your eyes and then glob it on and open your eyes and see. If I were doing I never have done a burn that's full face. Sometimes you see those in movies where the person is staggering around and they're completely engulfed in fire. A lot of times those are more specialty equipment than I've ever used. And there are different ways of doing it. Some of the older burns, I think, were done with these big carbon suits. I'm not really sure because I've never seen it done that way. But I think those were more of a full body thing as well. But the ways I've done it, I've never actually been burning my face. It's always been either like full body, but up the back, or like partial body burns. So yeah, I could see, but they glob it on, you open your eyes, so there's like all this gel just dripping, and the camera can't see it because it's clear, right? Yeah. That's all. And then they light you up. And if you feel heat at all, the burn is over. It means you're getting burned. Yeah. Right? If you feel any heat, that means the fire has hit your skin and it's bad, it's over. And usually that would mean you go down and they put you out. But burns don't last very long. They get dangerous and hot very quick.
What TV shows and movies have you been burnt in?
I don't think I'm on film anywhere being burned. I've done it for live events mostly and stuff. So I don't think you can find footage of me doing it. Sadly, that would be nice.
That'd be really cool.
There's not a lot of call for fire burns, unfortunately, because every stunt person, like there are very few stunt people that don't love being burned. I know a few, but for so many stunt people, it's kind of cliche that we love being lit on fire. It's, everybody's saying, oh, that's my favorite. It's like, oh yeah, of course that's your favorite. That's everybody's favorite. So people really like doing it. It tends to pay very well too, because it's easy to do, but it is more dangerous. So it's not hard, but there is more risk if it goes wrong, because people can get hurt doing it. So people love those jobs, and there doesn't tend to be a lot of call for small Asian women getting burned up. I'd have to match the person pretty closely, and there aren't many of me.
If your books get turned into a movie, are you going to write that in there where there's a small Asian woman getting burnt?
I should totally do that.
And then you can cameo it? That'd be awesome.
Life goals. I need to do this now. I would love to cameo, if my books get made into movies, though, I would love to cameo in them as a person getting thrown by an explosion or something, and just ratchet into the air, and people, oh, there's the author.
Oh gosh, who would you see cast in your books if they became something?
Oh, this is a hard question, because we are talking to Hollywood and have been for a little while, and so I don't want to.
Well, how about your new book that's coming out that hasn't?
Okay,
that one, yeah,
I can talk about that one. This one, let's see. I'm trying to think. It's hard because they're both, minority women who are older. That's a hard demographic to, there just aren't many actresses who are working in that demographic, unfortunately, probably because there aren't as many roles. Let's see. I mean, Michelle Yeoh could definitely play Hoyu just because she's Michelle Yeoh and she could do anything. I don't know if she would be my first choice or not, because I'm trying to think who else is sort of in that demographic range. I mean, she's just so good. She can do anything. She's one of my favorite actresses.
There's lots of great Asian actresses that just haven't been seen here.
That's true as well. Yeah. So
yeah.
It could be a Chinese actress. I just watched a wuxia that had an amazing older actress. I don't know her name, who is just incredible. And let's see, for Rosa, Michelle Rodriguez would be really good. And I don't know if she's old enough yet, but maybe by the time the movie got made, she would be. Yeah, it's fun to think about those kinds of things.
So when you write, are you a pantser or a plotter? Do you plot out, or you just write by seat of your pants?
I am definitely a pantser. I wish I could plot. I have tried, and every time I try, it flames out. But it's so hard being a pantser because I want an algorithm. You know, I'm a computer scientist and mathematician person. I want an algorithm that will tell me this is, if I work in this direction, a book will come out the other side, and that will always work. And it never works that way for me. It's much more chaos and big.
Well, I mean, to do that, your books would have to be pretty formulaic. Like, it would have to be filled with tropes, and it ends one way every time. You know?
I guess so, but I do know people who are at least able to, even if their books are not formulaic, they plot them out all first. Like, they do the creative part first. And then if I could do that, at least I know I have a book at the end. I wouldn't have to get to 2/3 of the way and then just be wondering if this thing will ever become the shape of a book or not, which has happened in pretty much every book so far. But I think that's
doing something right. What kind of advice could you give aspiring authors?
One of the biggest things I'd say is find community. That's been really important for me. Find communities of writers to share things with, to encourage each other, but also for critique. That's really important. Critique other people's work. I find it's very extremely useful and vital to get critique of one's own work. But I find it's actually even more useful for me to critique tons of other people's work.
Really?
Because then I started to see things. I became a much more discerning reader and critic of both structure and on the line level. And then I could go back to my own work and see those things as well. So that made me so much of a stronger writer, doing a whole lot of critique. But also for business purposes, it's so good to have community, because as you work up, it starts to become, at first it's just creative, right? When you're working on your story or your novel, but as you start to sell things and have relationships with agents and publishers, it becomes a business, and having people to talk to about that and to gut check you when you're thinking, oh, is this an okay business practice? Is this a red flag? You know, stuff like that. This stuff comes up all the time, not because necessarily a lot of people are malicious or anything, but just because if you don't know what the norms are in an industry, you know, it's very hard to sort of figure out, is this the way I should be going with this? Should I sign this contract? Should I ask for this change? And having community around you who can answer those questions and discuss those things with you is absolutely invaluable. So I really recommend it.
So, what did you do with your first advance on your book? Your first book?
I lived off of it. I was already living off my writing, because I had taken a hiatus from movies and moved to Japan, and I was doing some self-publishing at the time, so I was already living off that. And then I got the book advance, and it was, you know, major level up for my career. But that was that was what I lived on. So I became a full-time writer.
What are you working on now?
I don't think I can say yet.
Okay, that's fine.
It's going to be announced in about a month. I think I'm embargoed till the end of September. But I'm excited.
Is that what you're writing now?
Yeah.
Okay.
The Burning Roses. This one's coming out in September. This one's written.
Yes.
Right now, I'm doing promotion for that one, and I am working on a new thing that I cannot. It's super secret.
Carlos wants to know where you lived in Japan.
I live in Tokyo. I also have family in Kobe, so I would go there quite often. And I took the opportunity while I was there to travel around all of Japan as much as I could. So I've seen all 4 main islands and just did as much domestic travel as I could fit in and afford while I was there.
So you have some books you want to recommend. What are those? What
Sure.
are you reading right now?
What I'm reading right now is Exhilarating by Ted Chiang, which is his short story collection, or one of them. And it is amazing. For any of you who know Ted Chiang, this is no surprise because he is just the most phenomenal short storyist. It's incredible. Everything he writes it bends my mind in the most amazing ways. And I'm reading it with my delightful book club, and we read 1 story a week, which is the perfect way to read Ted Chiang because his stories are so they're so thinky, right? Like the science fiction concepts in them are just so elevated and make all these twisty things happen in my head. So reading one and then digesting it and talking about it is I've read a lot of Ted Chiang before, and this is, I think, my most preferred way to read him, where we have that because that's also been amazing.
I just noticed I posted a link to our website, but in the blurbs, Barack Obama gives it a thumbs up.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
Oh, he's not on the back in the blurb.
It was totally afterwards. I think it says via Facebook. A collection of short stories that will make you think, grapple with big questions, and feel more human. The best kind of science fiction. And that is the best kind of review, too.
Yeah. Ted Chiang, for anybody who doesn't know, he wrote the story that Arrival is based on, the movie. And if you all have a link to it, you can order it from It Again Bookstore.
Yeah.
And if you choose to get the hardcover, this cover is like textured in a way that I just want to like pet it. It's a really, really nice hardcover is what I'm saying. But I'm sure you will still get the amazing stories if you order an ebook or paperback. I'm sure.
Yeah.
Another recommendation I have, which was a recent read that also phenomenal, The Deep by River Sullivan. I got the book cover in there. And Rivers, this is based on a song by Clipping, W. Diggs, William Hudson, and Jonathan Stites band. And it's about, and this is real, when in the transatlantic slave trade, they would throw pregnant women overboard. And this is absolutely historical. And the song and the book are both about what if those pregnant women had given birth and those children had become this whole underwater civilization. And it's haunting and amazing. And Rivers is just an incredible writer and very, very emotional and wonderful. And speaking of Rivers, I will also recommend their short story, Blood is Another Word for Hunger, which was on the Hugo shortlist this year and is also shortlisted for World Fantasy. Another just amazing, amazing short story. Like, there's so much good stuff happening in short fiction. I love science fiction and fantasy short fiction also.
Yeah, people either, like, are you able to write right now, or are you too stressed to do it?
I have to write because it's my job.
Yeah.
But the pandemic stuff has absolutely affected my productivity, as I think it has for many of us. It's been really hard, and you'd think because I work from home and I work at my computer at my desk, that it wouldn't have affected me as much, but I feel like it really, really has. I mean, this has been such a difficult year, both in terms of writing and non-writing stuff. So yeah, we're all in it together, right? But I've definitely been struggling. And anybody, if there are any aspiring or professional writers watching this, who, there's that thing going around like, oh, Shakespeare wrote King Lear when he was in quarantine. I say, don't even listen to that. It's so hard right now. And if you can, great. But, if you're being affected like I am, I don't think there's any shame in that.
So one of my favorite questions to ask people is, what did you read growing up? Who were your favorite authors when you were a kid?
Oh, I read so much growing up. This is so hard.
Yeah.
Like I just read all the books. I would say one of the books looking back that was probably a big gateway towards sci-fi and fantasy
Mm-hmm.
for me. And I didn't really know what they were at the time. I was just reading everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't really know that there were these genres that I was gravitating towards. But Madeline L'Engle's A Wrinkle in Time,
Yeah.
the whole series, I was so obsessed with it. I would read it I would reread it about every 2 years, like clockwork. I first read them when I was 8. I was in 2nd grade, I think, or 7 or 8. And I was so into it. I was reading it, and my brother had to explain to me that like mitochondria were real, but farandole were not real. And then I marched into my 2nd grade classroom, and I very officiously explained to my 2nd grade teacher what the 4th dimension was, because clearly I had to share this knowledge with the world. I had the whole rune memorized from A Swiftly Tilting Planet, and I just loved those books so much. And the concepts in them are still so fresh and wonderful.
I remember trying to read that, and I was not a good reader, and I struggled with it. It's not an easy book to read, but it's really good.
It's not an easy book, and it's a kid's book, but it's a very challenging and makes you think kids book. And I think that's what I loved about it, because it is challenging, and that's how I was able to keep reading it over and over and over again growing up, because it just got
a different book for you the first time versus the last time you read it. Yeah,
exactly. Every time I've gotten more out of it, and now that I'm an adult, I can't remember the last time I reread them, but I should go back and reread.
You should do that.
Yeah, it'll be very relaxing, I feel like.
I reread I'm not going to remember her now that I said it. The Blue Sword by Robin McKinley. I reread that one every few years.
Oh, I love Robin McKinley, but I don't think I've read that one.
That's the sequel to The Hero and the Crown.
Oh, nice.
It takes place about 1,000 years later. And Hero and the Crown I absolutely loved, but for some reason I reread The Blue Sword more than like that one.
It's funny which ones we reread, right? That's the same for me too. Robin McKinley wrote Beauty, right?
Yes, Beauty, and she wrote Sunshine, which is more adult book about vampires. That was very good.
I don't think I've read that one either.
Yeah.
I'll seek that out.
Yeah, Susan says it's a good time to read.
That is true. That is true. Quarantine.
So anyway, there was something else I was going to ask you, but I don't remember what it was, but it's okay. Oh, does writing energize you or exhaust you?
I feel like a little of column A, a little of column B, and at different times that answer is different. There are definitely times it energizes me, or else I wouldn't want to do it, if it always exhausted me. I think the times it energizes me are the times I feel like I'm really connecting with my characters, or I'm so excited about an idea, or something feels like it's really coming together in that. The same way I actually feel when I'm solving a math proof or a computer program, that when something starts to really come together, there's a sort of endorphin rush of it's fitting, it's becoming something. And I love that feeling. There are times it's incredibly frustrating when I'm staring at a blank page, when I'm typing words and the words aren't the right words, when everything just feels like everything I've written feels terrible, or I just have no ideas and have no idea how to move forward. And those times are exhausting and just mentally wring me out. So I do try to develop techniques for working through them, but it's definitely not, I feel like writing sounds like a very fun career to have, which in many ways it is. But it definitely, for me at least, has its grind to it. And I think
very romanticized.
Yeah. And I think many other writers would agree with me that there are the unromantic parts, like you're saying, where it's really exhausting and a grind. But the hope is that the good parts make up for it.
So Carlos wants to know, what was it like to win a Hugo?
Surreal. I still haven't really figured it out. It was very unexpected. The other short stories in the category are so good. Like this year's short stories, they were just incredible. and all in conversation with each other. And if you haven't read them, I highly recommend it. And they just looking at all of the rest of those stories, my feeling was that there was just no way. I was not expecting it. And I love all the other authors too, and I think they just did such incredible work. Shiv Ramdas also wrote a World War II story about the Churchill's genocide of India, based on absolutely real historical events, and like ours were very, we didn't mean for this to happen, but they were very in conversation with each other. I mentioned River's short story already. That was just I couldn't even like fathom how brilliant it was when I read it. Alex Harrow's story was about war and had this incredibly creative gender and family world building in it that was like nothing I'd ever seen before. Fran Wilde wrote about anthropomorphized weather in like a climate change allegory that was so beautiful and lyrical and wonderful. And Nivedita Sen's story is it's about cannibalism, or cannibalistic women, but it's written as a bibliography, like an academic citations.
Yeah.
And the story unfolds through these citations, and it's so clever and fascinating, and I love it. I love all of them. They're just it just gives me shivers how good all of those stories are. So I'm very honored to have been in that company and for people to have voted for me, because it really, like, that just means a lot, looking at all the other authors and stories. And I am still just so incredibly honored to have been in their company this year. And winning still feels a little bit like I wonder if I dreamed it. Did that actually happen? I'm not sure.
I'm sure you really deserved it. I'm going to go read it now. Not like right now, but I'm going to read it for sure. And I put a list of all the short stories in the comments. And you're right at the top.
Thank you. Yes, all of them are free online as well. Although I very much want to direct more business to Read It Again Bookstore also. So I don't know if I'm allowed to say this yet, but I will preview. So you see if it's in the store yet. Saga's the best science fiction 2020, best science fiction volume 1.
Yeah.
Edited by Jonathan Strahan, is coming out this year very soon.
Okay.
And it will be in that as well. So I don't know if
what was it called again? I'll
the best science fiction volume 1, I think, is the actual title. And Jonathan Strahan is the editor, Strahan. I hope I was allowed to say it. They've started sending out publicity emails, so I think.
Well, then that's fine. Yeah. Yeah. Saga Anthology of Science Fiction 2020. Got it. Okay. I will put that.
So yeah, throw that up. And my Hugo winning story is in that book also, along with, Jonathan Strahan's an amazing editor, and I know some of the other authors who are in that anthology, and his best of anthologies are just incredible in general. So I think you will almost certainly not be disappointed if you read that for the picture of short fiction in the world right now.
That's okay. So I'm putting it in there now. That's really cool. Okay, hold on. Filling up space. Hold on. Doing it. Okay.
I think science fiction and fantasy is just one of the best places for short fiction. So strong. Like the the short fiction market is just so strong. And we have some incredible best ofs like Jonathan Strahan's that are just can collect all these incredible voices for you. And I love it. I love reading short fiction as well as long.
We did an event earlier, a couple months ago, last month. I don't know, time blurs. It was like the history of women in speculative fiction. Ooh. And so it went from like the 20s through the 50s. So we had some like a panel. So I had a couple experts on. It was really cool.
Nice. Mm-hmm. That must have been fascinating, because I know a lot of women have been erased from sort of from popular consciousness and history, and people, you have to sort of dig for them because they were writing, but maybe were not publicized or remembered like they should have been.
Yeah, in fact, that's how I got a hold of you, is through Gideon Marcus.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It was his book and then another book.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. Yeah, Gideon is quite an expert on like the past of science fiction history, which is, you know, it's just very cool hearing people talk about the field from way back when to today, and the differences, but then also the ways it's all in conversation with itself, which I find fascinating, especially because some of that conversation is continuing a dialogue, and some of it is reacting against or working to fix some inequalities. And I just find that stuff really interesting to sort of look at and dig into.
Yeah, I'd like watching, like seeing how they write about, you're right, inequalities. So like how they would write about race or gender or sexual. Yeah. And in the scope of like the 50s. So what does that look like, you know? And people like women trying to break out, and
Yep, for sure. And there's so much to learn from there, and there's also so much that's angering, but then there's also so much to find that's amazing that people were actually doing at the time. It's actually it's stunning when you look at the Hugo ballots going back to I'm only the third woman of color to win the short story Hugo. Yeah, third.
Wow.
Sorry, no, fourth. There have been three of us have been in the last, like, oh, okay, I remember what it is now. I'm the fourth woman of color. Three of us have been in the last 4 years.
Wow.
Before 2017, the only woman of color ever to win the Hugo for short story in my category was Octavia Butler, which, of course, extremely rightfully
deserves it.
Yeah, she won in 1984. But since her, it was until 2017. And then 2017, 2018, and 2020. That's
wow.
It's so recent.
I know.
We think we've made all this great progress, and it's so recent.
So it makes me think of all the great stories that are out there that have just disappeared because they didn't win anything.
Exactly. And there were people writing them.
Yeah.
You know, we've always been writing. So it's
So Carlos says the calculating stars talks about that.
Oh, I really need to read that. I hear such good things about it. And I love Mary Robinette. She's just an amazing like force for good in the writing and publishing industries.
All right. So everybody, we have SL's books in stock. Although I gotta say my Zero Sum is kind of beaten up because I read it. Like it did not survive my bag at all. It's okay, but I can get more. Can you send us book plates? Can you do that?
I can try.
We
can talk about that in email. We can try to figure that out. For pandemic reasons, it's a little bit hard right now. I'm not sure about. Well, I'll have to look at mailing sizes and stuff when I can drop in the mailbox.
Yeah, we can figure it out. Okay,
we'll talk.
So I have them in stock, and I will get a nicer copy of Zero Sum if anybody's interested. Esther said that she would work on getting us some book plates. I highly recommend you go and buy her books. I'd prefer you buy them from us, but you don't have to. You can go and support your independent bookstore. Do you have a favorite independent bookstore?
I have so many.
Okay.
Too many, right? Like, let's see. It helps too that I've been doing these amazing events with people like you. So I've been meeting more independent bookstores across all of America, whereas before I usually only got to meet indies.
The local ones?
Yeah, the local ones, or book festivals are also great for meeting people. But let's see. My locals here are Volumes and Anderson's here in Chicago, and I've done events at both of them, and I love them. They're great people. Let's see. Back in Los Angeles, we had Mysterious Galaxy, which
very nice.
Yeah, science and fantasy specialized, and that's really, really cool. Let's see. A virtual event I did recently that they were just like really cool, just like you guys. Tubby and Coos in Louisiana, who are a queer speculative fiction niche bookstore, and they have like 24/7 gaming tables and stuff. And I was like, I want to visit you in person someday. But we met virtually. And there have actually been like so many cool virtual bookstores that I've. So like too many to list. I should start a list online of like these are the people you can order from that aren't Amazon to get books.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I always love asking authors where they shop because I know a lot of these stories. Like I know Mysterious Galaxy, and I think I know Anderson's. I think I do. And so I like hearing my friends' names come out of the mouths of other authors. So yeah,
that's so lovely.
So, and I know like these videos get like watched all over the country. So I want people to support their independent books. It doesn't have to be us. We'd like it to be us, but you don't have to go to us. So
that's so wonderful. It's the whole ecosystem, right? It's so important for authors and publishers and the reading public, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to make a list of indies so that people can click and
buy. That'd be really cool. Yeah, that'd be really cool. Okay, guys. So that is it. Thank you, SL. You have to come back next time. We maybe fit you in for your next book. I'll quickly read it. Yeah.
Why not? Thank you so much. This was lovely. Thank you.
Thank you
for having me.
Anytime. Okay. Bye, guys. Buy SL's books. Read them today. If you love math and killing people.
Thanks for coming, everybody. Appreciate all the questions. You all are wonderful. Bye.